IFL interview Eddie Hearn, where he declared Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury would take place not in the UK, but in Saudi Arabia. Let's listen to that interview.
I'm sure the UK fans won't want to hear this, but there's whispers going around that from Fury's side that Joshua Fury won't happen in the UK.
That won't. I can't see how it does.
So I can understand that.
I just can't see. I mean, for me, it should happen in the UK. And if there's a way to do it, we'll do it. But the problem is the money that could be... Because the government here don't invest in bringing mega events to the UK, they don't necessarily need to. Now, they've got a Premier League football game every weekend that's selling 50, 60, 80,000. But other countries, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's Congo, whether it's China, whether it's Saudi, whether it's Qatar, whether it's Abu Dhabi, their government and their tourism department has a huge pot of money that they're looking to bring major events, entertainment acts to showcase their country to the world as a tourism destination. So, and you can't, you know, I know it's easy. Like someone said to me the other day, what was it? Oh, that was it last night. Someone just messaged me and said, for fuck's sake, Eddie, Saudi Arabia, like, just who cares about the money? Just, you're so greedy, just do it in England. It's like, do you think that I go up to the guys and say, guys, you can make 150 million each to do it in Saudi or 40 million in the UK? But Dave on Twitter from Rochdale says, you're a cunt and you got to do it, excuse my language, and you got to do it in England. It doesn't work like that. Have a brain, you know? So, and it's not even that the fighters are greedy. If it was the difference of 10 million each, but it's not, it's double to go somewhere else. And it can't be ignored, especially a fight like that. So it's a one-off.
What about Vegas? Do you think MGM could compete having Joshua Fury with the Saudis and Dubai's, etc.?
No, is the answer. But I think that it's a case of they're probably the only people, along with a huge broadcast fee from DAZN, or if it all of a sudden it does become a 2 million pay-per-view fight. But what we found from the Ruiz fight is the subscriptions were so high on DAZN, and it was out of the country and on what is supposed to be a poor time. So what we're actually finding now is that it doesn't really make too much of a difference where that fight is. And from a UK perspective, the Saudi fight broke the revenue record, and it was on at 9 p.m.
So that was Eddie's statement about how AJ Fury will not be in the UK. It will be in Saudi because they'll make, you know, theoretically $150 million each compared to $40 million each in the UK. Guys, thoughts on this? I'll go to Rob first because obviously this is a UK versus UK fight. That's about whether it be in the UK. Your opinion matters more than me and Gary's to a degree. So thoughts, Rob, on what this would mean to British boxing, to the scene over there, to the fans over there, the consumers, like thoughts on the idea of AJ Fury not being in the UK.
Yeah, it would be a real shame. I know we're going to get to Ludabella going crazy, but he said like the future of British boxing, in his opinion, what was it? Lennox Lewis is the best British heavyweight of all time. Joshua and Tyson Fury would come right in behind that, and to not have an all British heavyweight, because let's remember this would be for the undisputed.
Yeah, in the theory that Fury beats Deontay Wilder, has the BBC belt, and then goes fights AJ.
Yeah,
how do you not make that fight in the UK?
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be huge disappointment, but I get that. Look, these guys are prize fighters, and they're going to go for the most amount of money possible, and all that kind of thing. So it sucks, but I get it. But I don't know. It would be a real shame because that would be absolutely massive here. And I guess I see business wise that the last Saudi fight, it was like 9 p.m. here, so it's still like in a prime time slot. So the pay-per-view buys would still be
completely fine. Yeah, it's not
all fine like that. I get that, but yeah, it would be a real shame if this went elsewhere. And just so you know, that kind of offer was also if Wilder wins it, it was kind of, he was saying it's the Wilder Fury winner, really. But the question was framed around Fury. But yeah, an all British UK heavyweight undisputed championship of the world in Saudi Arabia, it just sounds so wrong. You know, it should be Wembley Stadium. That's the kind of the biggest place we could do it, like venue, like physical venue size. Unless you opened it up to like it was Hyde Park or something like that, and you had to a ring in the middle and get as many people in you as you can. But yeah, it'd be a real shame. It really would.
And to talk about that, obviously and I'll go to you, Gary, because I just this does really bother me. Obviously, Eddie, that the monetary gain that one night for AJ and Fury, especially because they're going to collect the lion's share of the revenue, because that's how just boxing works. The top fighters do make the large percentage of the revenue. Of course, it's in your interest as a promoter to pursue that avenue. It's in their interest as your client, in a sense, to want that avenue. We get that. But this is when it comes down, and I wish maybe we like, in a sense, start talking about that Lou DiBella interview. Maybe that just intersects all throughout the show, because that interview just really sticks to me right now. You almost need someone that is, in Lou's words, he said, a quality control. I would say like a steward of the sport. I know that's a much more romanticized way to phrase it, but you need someone that is thinking long-term about what is best for boxing. Whether they are working for Sky Sports, whether they're working for Matchroom, whether they're working for DAZN, you need someone in those facilities, in those meeting rooms, in those boardrooms saying, what is best for this sport? Because maybe what's best for this sport is still going to make all of us tens of millions of dollars. Maybe does not make us $100 million. It's still going to make us tens of millions of dollars. And the side effect of us doing the right thing for the sport is that it becomes healthier, becomes more of a viable business long term. And then the tide starts rising and all the boats rise with it. Okay, the way we get back to the 1980s, where in the US you had guys like Corey Spinks fighting in front of 20, 30 million people on CBS. The way you get back to the age of maybe the Chris Eubanks and the Nigel Benns of the world, right, where everyone in the UK watched those fights, everyone, right, is you promote the sport to its best ability. You make the sport to its best potential, okay? And a all-UK showdown with, in my opinion, sorry, Lennox, but these two heavyweights right now mean more to probably boxing as a whole, but especially the UK scene, okay? AJ and Fury are the biggest UK heavyweights ever, period. For them to fight each other in Wembley in front of 100,000 people and in front of the entire country coming together, because even though they would do it to a degree if it's in Saudi, it would be a different temperature in the country if it was there. Same with, honestly, AJ Wilder. If it was in Wembley or New York or Vegas, it would feel different than if it's in Saudi. Like that, I feel like that's just obvious. And not just in that arena, but like in the country as a whole, the perception of it would be different. It would just have more meaning to it. And to make the biggest heavyweight UK showdown in history a little bit less than what it could be is disserving to the sport. Maybe it's not disserving to you guys' own pockets that night. I get that. I get how business runs. But someone in this industry needs to be thinking about the sport first. And no one is. Okay? And this is the type of matchup that clearly someone's not thinking about the sport at all. They're thinking about their own goddamn pockets.
I mean, Lou DiBella says, doesn't he? He says, like, if I'm Eddie Hearn and I say to Joshua, and Joshua says, just go out there and get me the most money. And I ring Bob Arum. He said, just make the fight where it's going to make the most money. He said, I get that. That's been.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah. I'm just sort of backing up what he's saying. He said, but because he said something like, but Eddie said, I don't see it. It can't be in the UK. And he's like, why? Why can't it? Why can't it be in the UK? And then he went down, like I say, the whole route of Lennox Lewis. He said, for me, is the best, but whatever. And this would be absolute. And like you say, this country, it would have almost like when England are in the World Cup, right? Mm-hmm. We get on this whole journey throughout the tournament, and we're getting it, and it's like football's coming home, it's coming home, and there's just this whole I don't know, feel good feeling like we're in the semi-finals or the quarterfinals or something, and then we fall short. But it was like, what a ride, you know. It was like we were, but the whole country's like on the same page. And like you say, just because it's a fight and it's boxing, and maybe it wouldn't be quite as big as obviously football, but you would get that. I don't know, that sort of whole nation there. But if it's out in Saudi, it just takes an edge. Even though, like you said, I said we can all tune in at a usual time,
It'll probably
pay our
break
pay-per-view money.
It'll still break records, but it's not going to have the same.
Yeah, it's just not quite the same, you know, and it would be a real shame. I know I get the Eddie Hearn defender and the Matchroom defender and this, that, and the other, but I can't sort of defend like this. It's got to be, if it's Wilder, if it's Fury and Joshua, Wembley Stadium, 100,000 people, there would be parks around London with big screens, with thousands of people there, people having barbecues and fight parties and this. Instead of like, you know, a Joshua Pulev, there's going to be your usual crowd, the usual amount of casuals that tune into Joshua, around the million, you know, in it. But this would just capture, I think, even more of a wave, because it'd be all over BBC News, Sky News, ITV News, every single news channel. Whereas a normal Joshua fight, it gets that, but not to the level of that would. Tyson Fury and Joshua, it'd be huge here, absolutely huge.
It would do 4 to 5 million pay-per-view buys.
I mean, I don't know quite about that. Maybe
combining like BT numbers and Sky, it does 4 to 5 million.
Maybe that's, to me, maybe a stretch of people actually purchasing it, but you'd have households with like 10, 20 people in it. True. So figures, maybe that many people actually watching it. And like you said earlier, people know a way to stream it. Most people, you know, when you look on Twitter, no one's paying for a pay-per-view, and yet it always seems to do 1 million buys. But I don't know who's, you know, they're not paying for it. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying, but they all got an opinion on the fight. But yeah, it would be absolutely massive here, and it would be such a shame for it to land elsewhere, really. Yeah, I mean, Gary, what do you think?
At first, I thought that it was impossible to not have this fight in the UK, right? Like, you got the two biggest names, two biggest fighters in the UK fighting each other. But then I thought of something, right? You had the two best Canadian heavyweights.
Wait, Gary. We just had the heir to the throne. I just wonder, hopefully he's less, like, you know, pessimistic about everything. Let's do it. Look, he's, yeah. Look, check it out. He's made his dad smile. Look at that.
There's a human being in that.
Yeah. That stone does actually pulse, right? But yeah, carry on, guys. Sorry.
So it got me thinking about that, right? Like, but then there was a similar fight. They were the two best Canadian heavyweights at that time, Lennox Lewis and Razor Ruddock, and they didn't fight in Canada. So I mean, I guess it's possible to put this fight somewhere else, right? I guess like there's a precedence for that. They've actually put that fight in England between two Canadians. So that was kind of weird, right?
Yeah, well, they're only Canadian when they lose. That's how we feel about Andy Murray, the tennis player. But he's British when he's winning, and he's Scottish when he's losing.
That's so fucked up.
I thought of that, right? And then I thought of, wait a second. Lennox Lewis fought Frank Bruno. That had to be in Vegas or Atlantic City, because I was in the United States because I watched it. But then I looked it up, and that was in the UK. So I was wrong about that. How was that on American TV? I remember watching that fight.
Was it on HBO?
Maybe. No,
you occasionally got a UK fight on HBO or Showtime. You did.
This was one of them, because I remember.
Like for example, like we got, remember when we didn't get the first car for George Groves, we got the second one, remember? And that was a big deal, right? On HBO. We got that on HBO. So it did happen in the old paradigm occasionally, but it wasn't a normal thing.
Yeah, I just it wasn't the US.
Yeah, it was on HBO.
I remember watching it. But there you go, Matt.
Because wasn't at that time Mike with Showtime, and Lennox was with HBO, because then eventually they did fight, and that was the HBO. That was the first time HBO and Showtime worked together on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, but this is before. But this is after Riddick Bowe threw the belt in the garbage, right? When he fought.
Yes, this is after.
Mike Tyson was actively ducking him the first time.
Yes.
Fucking Lewis. Yeah. And then he got
I think so.
BC, but yeah. Because Mike Tyson had to give up one of his belts. Mike Tyson had unified 2 of the belts, the WBA and the IBF, I want to say.
But digressing, Gary.
Okay, that's relevant. Again, I still think this fight's going to happen in the UK. I mean, there's got to be smart enough people in the room that said this is great for UK. Look, if we make a little less money, it's a long-term investment, like Lou said. Someone has to have that whereabout. Like I said the same thing about Teofimo Lopez. Put Teofimo Lopez, because they were talking about putting that fight in Saudi Arabia. Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko. No, you want Lopez to be a star. You got to put this in the Garden. If you want to put another fight in Saudi Arabia, then do that. But this one, this star-making performance where he can dethrone Lomachenko, that's got to go in the Garden. It's got to, because if he wins, he's a star. New York City is his hometown city. He's got to win that fight there. He has to have a star-making performance there. This fight is massive for the UK. It's got to be held there. I don't care if you lose some money up front. You're going to make it back when you make the star a pop culture icon.
And on top of that, to use the narrative they use for all these bullshit YouTube fights, think about all the kids that are going to be in attendance watching that fight and all of a sudden be inspired to be either A, the biggest hardcore boxing fan ever and buy DAZN and all the match and pay-per-views in the world, or they're the next fucking AJ. That's what those moments, that's what those fights are for. Those moments are real. Like that narrative works for those fights, not for bullshit YouTube fights, but the real big super mega fights that we see, those cross-generational fights, that transcendental matchup. Yes, those actually have that narrative working where it creates new fans. It creates new people that want to be a boxer, be a fighter, because they see it at the highest level when it's purest and it's best. And if AJ Fury is in Saudi, it's not its purest. It's not its best, just because of the location shift. Sorry, back to you, Gary. I know I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, that was basically my take on it. I understand it may be more upfront money in Saudi Arabia, but you know what I'm saying? Like Luda Bell said, you don't put the Super Bowl in UAE, right? Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to go there. And I think the long term, but again, no one has a long term outlook on boxing ever. You know, when you were putting all these fights on pay-per-view back in the early 2000s, this is why you killed the sport, because no one outside the hardcores were going to, as great as Morales, Barrero 2 and 3 were, and they were great fights, you're not getting the casual fan to spend $60 at that time to watch those fights. So it was only hardcores. So you shrunk.
Compared if that was in the 80s and 70s, that'd be on ABC or CBS or NBC, you know.
Right, and 30 million people would have watched as opposed to 300,000. Now, I'm sure more people watched than 300,000, but that's how many people bought it.
Yes.
You know, it's damaging to the sport, right? Like, so I do think that they will put it in Cardiff, or they'll put it in Wembley, or whatever. Wembley would probably be where that fight would go, right?
They need probably the biggest venue possible.
Because you can't put sports outside in London in the winter, can you?
No, come on.
I didn't think so.
I wish I didn't even have a job in the winter, Gary.
You can't be outside in the winter when it's period.
It's been pretty mild actually this year. But yeah, you don't want to stand and watch a boxing match.
Oh, even like the summertime, shit rains constantly. Like that's always gonna be a concern. Like the rain alone is always gonna be a concern in the UK.
Who would want to live in a place like that? Seriously.
You know what? I will say this:
greatest country on earth.
If I had to pick, if I was like super rich and could have like a summer home somewhere, there are two countries I would have those summer homes: either Italy or Ireland, which is close enough to the UK where I count it. It's the same environment, climate.
Nowhere cold, like Sicily for sure. And then like just an island, Hawaii, that's part of the United States, or like the Fiji, like somewhere, my own island where no one could bother me.
No, I can't wear shorts and sandals all day, man. I need sweats and a sweater.
Which, yeah, because you live in Southern California. I mean, today you're not, but you always.
I took my sweater off to put the Kobe jersey on. Okay. I have respect.
If it's under 50 degrees, there's no need for that. There's no need for cold.
You mean if it's above 50 degrees, there's no reason for a sweater and shit?
No. I'm saying if it's under 50, if it's under 50 degrees, there's no reason for that place to exist. Like we don't need that place. I'm never going there, right? Like, like people who are like snowbirds and stuff. Like I used to go skiing. Never again. I can't do the cold.
Never again.